Lieutenant Mark Davis stared at the blinking alert on his ship's radar. Something large drifted through the emptiness of space just beyond his scanning range. He was alone on this exploration mission, mapping the outer reaches of the Centauri system, when his ship detected the unknown object. "Computer, identify contact," Mark said, his fingers moving across the control panel. "Unknown vessel. No match in database. Power signature extremely weak," the computer replied in its flat voice. Mark frowned. He wasn't supposed to approach unidentified ships, but something about this one seemed wrong. It wasn't moving with purpose. It was drifting, tumbling slowly end over end. His training told him to report and continue his mission. His instincts told him someone needed help. "Plot intercept course," he ordered, turning his small explorer ship toward the mysterious vessel. As he drew closer, Mark could see the damage. The alien ship was unlike anything humans had built. It had a smooth, pearl-like surface that seemed to glow faintly from within. Large sections of its hull were torn open, revealing strange technology inside. Whatever had happened, it had been violent. Mark suited up and prepared his airlock for a spacewalk. "Computer, maintain position 50 meters from target. Monitor for any changes." The space between ships was quiet and cold. Mark used his suit's thrusters to cross the void, landing gently on the alien vessel's surface. Finding what looked like an entry point, he made his way inside. The air was thin but breathable according to his suit's sensors. Mark removed his helmet, smelling something like cinnamon and ozone. The corridors were curved and lined with material that gave off soft light. Most systems appeared dead, but emergency lighting still functioned. "Hello," Mark called out, his voice echoing strangely. "Is anyone alive?" He moved deeper into the ship, passing rooms filled with technology he couldn't begin to understand. In what seemed to be the control center, he found her. She was slumped over a console, her body almost human-like, but clearly alien. Her skin had a faint blue tint, and what looked like delicate crystal formations grew along her temples and cheekbones. Her eyes, when they fluttered open at his approach, had pupils that expanded and contracted like camera lenses. She was alive, but barely. Mark knelt beside her. "I'm not going to hurt you," he said softly, knowing she probably couldn't understand him. "I'm here to help." The alien woman tried to speak, but only a weak sound emerged. Her hand reached toward a small device on her wrist. Mark watched as she pressed it, and suddenly a field of light surrounded them both. Images appeared in the air, simple pictures of her ship being attacked, of crew members dying, of her escaping. "You're running from someone," Mark said, understanding dawning on him. "And you're important." The next images showed her wearing elaborate decorations, others bowing to her. Some kind of leader then, maybe royalty. She was losing consciousness again. Mark made a quick decision. "I'm taking you to my ship. I can help you there." Carefully, he lifted her. She was lighter than she looked, as if her bones were hollow. As they moved through the corridors, Mark noticed a small room filled with crystal data storage units. On impulse, he grabbed several and stuffed them into his pack. Back on his ship, Mark placed her on the medical bed. The computer scanned her body, trying to make sense of her alien biology. "Subject shows signs of internal bleeding and radiation exposure. Recommend immediate treatment." Mark worked through the night, using his basic medical training and the ship's systems to stabilize her condition. He didn't know what she was, where she came from, or what would happen when she woke up. All he knew was that somewhere in the vastness of space, she had found him. And now her life was in his hands. As morning cycle began on his ship, the alien's eyes opened fully for the first time. They focused on Mark with surprising clarity. "Thank you," she said in perfect English, shocking him into silence. The universe, Mark realized, had just become a much stranger place. Mark nearly fell out of his chair when the alien princess spoke to him in perfect English. You can speak my language?" he asked, stunned. Ilara touched the crystal formation on her temple. "This helps. It analyzes speech patterns and translates. I learned while I was unconscious. Your medical computer talks a lot. Mark laughed despite himself. That's incredible technology. Basic technology for my people, she said, struggling to sit up. I am Ilara of House Lumen, first princess of the 7 systems. Mark helped her settle into a more comfortable position. Lieutenant Mark Davis of Earth, just a simple explorer, nothing special. You saved my life, Ilara said. That makes you very special to me. Over the next few days, as Ilara regained her strength, they spent hours talking. Mark brought her food from his supplies, carefully testing what she could eat. She found human fruit delicious, but couldn't digest meat at all. My ship picked up your distress signal, Mark explained, though he wasn't sure such a signal had actually existed. What happened to you? Who attacked your vessel? Ilara's luminescent eyes darkened. My uncle, Lord Vex. He has taken the throne. Many royal houses supported him, thinking my father too peaceful, too unwilling to expand our empire. She looked down at her hands. My parents were killed in the coup. I only escaped because my guard commander sacrificed himself. Mark felt a pang of sympathy. He'd lost his own parents years ago. I'm sorry. You have not reported me to your authorities, Ilara observed. Why? Mark looked uncomfortable. I should have. Protocol says any first contact situation should immediately be handed over to Earth Central Command. He shrugged. But you needed help, not interrogation. And honestly, I've always thought some rules need flexibility. Ilara studied him with curious eyes. Humans are strange. On my world, disobeying orders would mean severe punishment. Oh, I'll probably face court-martial when I get back, Mark said with a half smile. But it seemed worth the risk. One evening, Mark found Ilara examining the small library of books he kept on board. She held a worn copy of Shakespeare's plays. These stories are violent but beautiful, she said. Do all humans contain such contradictions? Most of us, I think, Mark replied. What about your people? The Luminar value order, and logic above all. Emotions are seen as primitive, something to overcome. She tapped the book. Yet I find these emotional stories fascinating. Mark noticed how she brightened when she talked about human culture. He began sharing more. Music, films, art. She absorbed everything eagerly, asking questions about concepts that seemed obvious to him, but were foreign to her. What is this falling in love your stories mention so often? She asked one day. Mark nearly choked on his coffee. That's complicated. It's when you care about someone so much that their happiness becomes as important as your own. Like family bonds. Similar, but different. It's choosing someone rather than being born to them. Ilara contemplated this. My people arrange marriages for political advantage. The concept of choosing a mate based on emotion seems inefficient, but intriguing. Mark's ship computer interrupted them. Warning. Multiple vessels detected entering scan range. Approach pattern suggests pursuit formation. Ilara's face drained of color. They found me. Mark rushed to the control panel. On the screen, 3 ships appeared, their designs similar to Ilara's damaged vessel, but larger, more aggressive in shape. Your enemies? Mark asked, already knowing the answer. Ilara nodded grimly. Lord Vex's hunters. They will kill you and take me back for public execution. Mark's hands flew over the controls, powering up the engines. Not if I have anything to say about it. The small exploration vessel surged forward, diving toward the cover of a nearby asteroid field. The chase had begun. Mark's exploration vessel shuddered as he pushed its engines beyond their limits. The 3 Luminar warships followed close behind, their weapons systems coming online. They're faster than us in open space, Mark said, his eyes fixed on the navigation display. But I'm betting they can't match our maneuverability. Ilara gripped her seat as the ship banked sharply toward the dense asteroid field ahead. These are Royal Guard vessels. They are built for combat, not chase. My uncle spares no expense to find me. The first warning shot streaked past their viewport, a beam of intense purple energy that turned a nearby asteroid into dust. Impressive weapons, Mark muttered, diving the ship between two massive space rocks. Computer, divert power from life support to engines and shields. Maintain minimum breathable atmosphere. The lights dimmed as the ship redirected its energy. Mark flew by instinct now, weaving through the asteroid field in a pattern that seemed random, but followed a strategy he'd developed during training exercises. The larger Luminar ships struggled to follow, their bulky frames unable to make the tight turns Mark executed. "They're falling behind," Ilara said, watching the rear scanners. Mark shook his head. "They don't need to follow our exact path. They're spreading out to surround us." True to his prediction, the enemy ships split up. One continued directly behind them, while the other two moved to flank positions, trying to cut off escape routes. "How did they find us?" Mark asked, narrowly avoiding a collision with a spinning asteroid. Ilara looked grim. "My ship must have had a tracking device I didn't know about. I was foolish not to check." "Not your fault," Mark assured her. "You were busy being unconscious and nearly dead." A second energy beam struck their shields, causing alarms to blare throughout the ship. The blast knocked them sideways, nearly sending them into the path of a massive asteroid. "Shields at 40%, the computer announced calmly. "Direct hit will result in hull breach." Mark spotted a narrow passage between two colliding asteroids. "Hold on," he shouted, spinning the ship sideways to slip through the gap. The pursuing vessel couldn't adjust in time and collided with the asteroid, damaging its propulsion system. "One down," Mark said with grim satisfaction. The remaining two ships, however, were closing in fast. A barrage of energy beams forced Mark to execute a series of desperate evasive maneuvers. "There," Ilara pointed to a massive, hollow asteroid ahead. "Inside that one." Mark didn't question her, diving toward the crater-like opening. They slipped inside the massive space rock, finding it hollowed out from some ancient impact. "Cut engines, run silent," Mark ordered his computer. The ship went dark, drifting inside the asteroid's shadowy interior. The two Luminar ships hovered outside, scanning for their prey. "They won't give up easily," Ilara whispered, as if the enemy might hear them through the vacuum of space. "Neither will I," Mark replied. Suddenly, a small shuttle detached from one of the warships and headed toward the asteroid. "Boarding party," Mark said, moving from his pilot's seat. "Computer, maintain silent running. Lock down all systems except life support." He reached into a compartment and pulled out a handheld plasma cutter, his only weapon. "Stay here," he told Ilara. "If they get past me, there's an escape pod at the rear of the ship." Ilara stood up. "I will not hide while you fight my enemies." "This isn't a debate," Mark insisted. "You're too valuable to." A thunderous impact rocked the ship as the enemy shuttle landed directly on their hull. Cutting tools began to slice through the metal above them. Mark positioned himself beneath the entry point, ready to face whatever came through. The hull began to glow red as the intruders cut their way in. With a hiss of escaping air, a circular piece of the ceiling fell to the floor. A masked figure in dark armor dropped through the opening, weapon raised. Mark lunged forward, ducking under the weapon and driving his shoulder into the intruder. Two more figures dropped in behind the first. "Run," Mark shouted to Ilara as he wrestled with the first attacker. An energy blast struck Mark in the shoulder, spinning him around. Pain seared through his body as he fell to one knee. Through blurring vision, he saw Ilara grab his plasma cutter and face the attackers. The last thing he remembered before losing consciousness was the strange, beautiful glow that began to emanate from Ilara's eyes and fingertips. Mark awoke to the gentle hum of unfamiliar machinery. His shoulder ached, but the burning pain had subsided. When he opened his eyes, he found himself in a room unlike any he had seen before. The walls seemed alive, pulsing with soft blue light that followed the rhythm of his breathing. "He's awake," said Ilara's voice from somewhere nearby. Mark tried to sit up, but gentle hands pressed him back down. He turned to see Ilara standing beside 3 other Luminar. Like her, they had the same crystalline growths along their temples, but their clothing and posture marked them as different, more formal, more guarded. "Where am I?" Mark asked, his voice rough. "Safe," Ilara replied. "This is Lumen Haven, our hidden colony. After you were wounded, I used my people's energy manipulation to disable the attackers. Then I flew your ship here. You can fly my ship?" Mark asked, surprised. A slight smile crossed her face. "Your controls are primitive but logical. I manage." One of the other Luminars stepped forward, a tall male with elaborate crystal formations that formed almost a crown around his head. "I am Elder Terius. Princess Ilara has told us what you did for her. The colony is grateful, though many question the wisdom of bringing an outsider here." Mark looked around the room, taking in the advanced technology. "How long have you been here?" "This colony was established 20 Earth years ago," Terius explained. "We foresaw the political instability on our homeworld and created this sanctuary. We are the only ones who remained loyal to the royal family when Lord Vex seized power." Mark noticed the way the other Luminar kept their distance, watching him with a mixture of curiosity and suspicion. When he could walk again, Ilara gave him a tour of the colony. It was built inside a massive underground cavern, with structures that seemed to grow from the very rock. Hundreds of Luminar went about their daily activities, all stopping to stare as the human passed by. "They'd never seen a human before," Ilara explained. "Most believe your species is too primitive to be of consequence." "Thanks," Mark said dryly. "I told them you saved my life," she continued, "but many fear your presence will lead our enemies here." As they walked through what appeared to be a marketplace, Mark noticed the whispers and pointing. Children hid behind their parents. Some Luminar made strange gestures when he passed. "What are they doing?" Mark asked. "Protection signs," Ilara said. "They believe humans are unpredictable and dangerous." "Are we?" Ilara considered this. "You are different. Your emotions guide you more than logic. This makes you surprising." They stopped at a viewpoint overlooking the entire colony. Below, the structures glowed with inner light, creating a beautiful tapestry of blues and silvers. "The council meets tonight to discuss our next move," Ilara said. "News from the homeworld is grim. My uncle's forces grow stronger each day." "And they want me to leave," Mark guessed. Ilara nodded. "Many do. They fear what you might report to your people if you return." "I wouldn't betray your location," Mark assured her. "I believe you," she said, touching his arm lightly. "But trust is not common among my people, especially now." Later that evening, Mark stood before the colony's council, 7 Ilara, all wearing elaborate crystal adornments. Elder Terius spoke first. "Human, your rescue of our princess shows courage. However, your presence threatens our security. Our laws are clear. Outsiders cannot remain." Another elder leaned forward. "We have repaired your vessel. You will be escorted to the edge of our system, and then must never return." Mark looked at Ilara, who stood silent beside her elders. He could tell from her expression that she had argued for him to stay. "Before I go," Mark said carefully, "you should know that Lord Vex's forces placed a tracking device on my ship. If I leave, they will follow me, and eventually find their way back here." A murmur ran through the council. The elders exchanged worried glances. "Then perhaps," Elder Terius said slowly, "we must reconsider our options." Ilara stepped forward, her eyes bright with determination. "There is another choice. Instead of hiding, we fight. We retake our homeworld, with Mark's help." The room erupted in shocked voices, but Mark saw something he hadn't noticed before, a spark of hope in the eyes of the younger Luminar. The tide was turning. The great hall of Lumen Haven buzzed with tension as Ilara presented her plan to retake the homeworld. Mark stood beside her, the only human among hundreds of Luminar. The council members sat in a semicircle before them, their crystal formations glowing with varying colors that seemed to reflect their emotions. "My uncle believes me dead," Ilara explained, her voice steady and clear. "This gives us the advantage of surprise." Elder Terius shook his head. "Princess, your courage is admirable, but we have only 3 warships. Lord Vex controls the entire royal fleet. Numbers aren't everything," Mark interjected, drawing disapproving looks from several elders. "Sometimes the unexpected approach works better than brute force." He stepped forward and activated a holographic display showing the Luminar homeworld. "Your technology is incredible, but your military tactics are predictable. No offense." A younger council member named Lyra leaned forward. "Explain, human." Mark pointed to the capital city. "Your ships always attack in standard formations. Everyone expects that. But what if we do something no Luminar would consider? Something human." Interest flickered across the faces of the younger Luminar, while the elders remained skeptical. Over the following days, Mark worked with Ilara and the colony's military leaders to develop their strategy. Using his knowledge of Earth's naval history, he proposed an infiltration approach rather than a direct assault. The plan would require small teams to disable the capital's defenses from within, allowing their limited fleet to break through. During these sessions, Mark received an urgent message from Earth Command on his repaired communication system. "Lieutenant Davis," came the stern voice of his commander, "your mission parameters did not include extended radio silence or deviation from your assigned route. You are ordered to return to Earth immediately for debriefing. Failure to comply will result in court-martial proceedings. This is your only warning." Mark stared at the message display long after it ended. Ilara found him there, his face troubled. "Your people want you to return," she said. "It wasn't a question." Mark nodded. "I've violated about a dozen protocols. My career is probably over already." "Then go," Ilara said softly. "You've done enough for us. This isn't your fight." Mark looked at her, seeing not just the princess, but the person he'd come to know. Brave, intelligent, and trapped in a war she never wanted. "If I leave now, what happens to you?" he asked. "We will proceed with the plan. It may not work as well without your human perspective, but we will try." Mark stood and walked to the viewport, looking out at the unfamiliar stars. "All my life, I wanted to find something amazing out here, something that mattered." He turned back to her. "I found you." "What are you saying?" "I'm saying I'm staying. Earth will have to wait." The next morning, as the colonists prepared their 3 warships, Elder Terius approached Mark. "The Council has considered your plan," he said formally. "It is unorthodox and dangerous. Many believe it will fail." Mark's heart sank. "However," Terius continued, "the princess believes in you, and her word still carries the weight of royal command." He handed Mark a small crystal emblem. "This marks you as an ally of House Lumen. No Luminar loyal to the true royal line will harm you." As their small fleet prepared to depart, Mark received one final message from Earth Command. "Lieutenant Davis, this is your final notice. Return immediately or face permanent discharge from service and possible criminal charges." Mark composed a short reply. "Cannot comply. Have found something more important. Davis out." He joined Ilara on the bridge of the lid ship. Around them, Luminar crew members worked at their stations, some still casting uncertain glances at the human in their midst. "Are you certain?" Ilara asked quietly. "You're sacrificing everything." Mark looked at the stars ahead, thinking of the home he might never see again. "Not everything," he replied, "just exchanging one future for another." The ship's engines hummed to life, and the small rebel fleet accelerated toward the wormhole that would take them to the Luminar homeworld. To war. The 3 rebel ships emerged from the wormhole at the edge of the Luminar home system. Immediately, they scattered, following Mark's plan to approach from different vectors. All ships dark and silent. Ilara commanded from the bridge of the lead vessel. "Approach using minimal power." Mark stood beside her, studying the tactical display. The Luminar homeworld glowed like a blue jewel in the distance, surrounded by orbital defense platforms and patrolling warships. "Your uncle has doubled the security since you left," Mark observed. "He fears the people," Ilara replied. "Many still support my family in secret." Their ship glided silently through space, using the system's asteroid belt for cover. The other two vessels took different routes, one disguised as a merchant ship, the other swinging wide around the system's gas giant to approach from behind. As they drew closer to the homeworld, Mark led a small team to prepare for their part of the mission. In the shuttle bay, 6 Luminar warriors waited, dressed in the dark armor of Lord Vex's elite guards. "Borrowed from our attackers," Ilara explained, handing Mark a similar suit. "Put this on." The armor reshaped itself to fit his human form. It felt strange but comfortable, with systems far more advanced than anything Earth had developed. "Remember," Mark told the team, "we're not trying to win through force. We just need to disable the planetary shield generator. Quick and quiet." One of the warriors, named Chorus, nodded respectfully. "Your strategy is unusual, human, but I see its wisdom." No Luminar would expect such an approach. Their ship docked with an orbital platform using forged credentials. Mark's team, disguised as Vex's guards, escorted Ilara, who wore restraints as if she were a prisoner. "Central Command reports a prisoner transfer," the platform officer said, checking his display. "We weren't notified." "Direct orders from Lord Vex," Chorus replied, presenting falsified documents. "This rebel was captured attempting to contact sympathizers. The Lord wishes to interrogate her personally." The officer studied Ilara's face. "She resembles the princess." "Many rebels alter their appearance to resemble the royal family," Mark said, modulating his voice through the armor's translator. "It inspires the misguided." After tense moments, the officer nodded and allowed them to pass. They moved quickly through the station toward the control center. "Shield generator controls are 2 levels down," Ilara whispered as they entered a lift. "Once disabled, our ships can approach the palace." The lift doors opened to reveal 4 genuine guards. For a heartbeat, both groups stared at each other in surprise. Then the fighting began. Mark moved with instincts honed through years of combat training. The Luminar guards were skilled, but they fought with rigid formal techniques. Mark's unpredictable movements confused them. He ducked under an energy blade and tackled the nearest guard, using the man's own weapon against him. The skirmish ended quickly, but not before an alarm sounded throughout the station. "Move," Mark ordered. "We've lost the element of surprise." They raced to the shield generator room, fighting through additional security forces. Mark took a glancing blow to his leg but continued forward. Finally, they reached the main control chamber. "Cover the door," Mark shouted as Ilara and Chorus worked on the shield controls. Through the viewport, Mark could see their other ships engaging Vex's fleet. The battle had begun in earnest. "We need 5 minutes to reconfigure the shields," Ilara called out. "You've got 2, Mark replied as more enemy forces approached. The firefight intensified. One of their team fell, then another. Mark used overturned equipment for cover, picking his shots carefully. His Earth combat training gave him approaches the Luminar never expected. "Shields are down," Ilara finally announced. At that moment, a massive explosion rocked the station as their main ship launched its attack run toward the palace. "Time to go," Mark said, helping a wounded team member to his feet. They fought their way to the emergency shuttles, barely escaping as the orbital platform began to break apart. Their small craft raced toward the planet's surface, toward the gleaming capital city and the palace at its center. From his position at the shuttle controls, Mark watched as Ilara's remaining forces engaged Vex's ships. The plan was working. The unexpected approach had caught the defense forces off guard. But as they approached the palace, a direct hit from ground defenses sent their shuttle spinning. Mark fought the controls, managing a rough but survivable crash into the palace gardens. "Everyone out," he ordered as smoke filled the cabin. Ilara stumbled from the wreckage, looking up at her childhood home, now occupied by her uncle. Her eyes hardened with determination. "The throne room is through the north entrance," she said. "If I can reach it during the ceremonial hour, I can invoke the ancient rite of challenge." Mark nodded, checking his weapon. "Then that's where we're going." Together, they ran toward the palace, as the sky above them filled with the light of battle. The throne room of the Luminar Royal Palace stood vast and gleaming, its crystal walls reflecting the chaos that had engulfed the capital. Lord Vex sat upon the throne, his face twisted with rage as reports of the rebel attack flooded in. "How did they breach our defenses?" he demanded of his generals. "Find them." The massive doors burst open. Ilara walked in, her royal garments torn and singed, but her bearing every inch a princess. Behind her came Mark, limping badly from a wound taken during their fight to the palace center. "Uncle," Ilara announced, her voice carrying to every corner of the room. "I invoke the ancient rite of challenge." A gasp ran through the assembled court. The rite of challenge was sacred law. Even a usurper could not deny it without losing all legitimacy in the eyes of the people. Vex rose slowly from the throne. "You dare return. Your parents died begging for mercy. You will join them soon enough. The law requires you to face me," Ilara persisted, "or abdicate immediately." Guards moved to surround them, but hesitated when Vex raised his hand. "Very well. I accept your challenge, though it will be brief." Mark stepped forward, but Ilara gently pushed him back. "This is my fight," she whispered, "my birthright." Vex descended from the dais, his crystal formations glowing with malevolent energy. Without warning, he struck, sending a pulse of power toward Ilara. She deflected it, responding with her own attack. The battle between uncle and niece escalated, their energy manipulations lighting the throne room with spectacular flashes. The court pressed back against the walls, watching in awe as royal blood fought royal blood. Mark saw Vex's guards moving quietly to surround Ilara from behind. Despite his injuries, he threw himself into their path. "Not fair," he growled, engaging 3 guards at once. His human fighting style, chaotic and unpredictable, confused the formerly trained Luminar. Across the room, Ilara was losing ground. Vex's power, enhanced by dark technologies, overwhelmed her defenses. She fell to one knee. "Your human pet fights for you," Vex mocked. "Such weakness. The Luminar needs strength." Mark, still fighting the guards, called out, "Ilara, remember what we discussed, unpredictability." Understanding flashed in her eyes. Instead of retreating as Luminar combat forms dictated, she lunged forward directly into Vex's attack. The unexpected move caught him off balance. Ilara's hands found the central crystal on his chest, the source of his enhanced power, and she tore it free. Vex screamed as his energies collapsed. Ilara stood over him, the stolen crystal pulsing in her hand. "The throne is mine by right," she declared. "Do you yield?" Before Vex could answer, he triggered a hidden weapon. The blast caught Mark squarely in the chest, throwing him across the room. "No," Ilara screamed, running to Mark's side as royal guards loyal to her finally overpowered Vex. Mark lay still, his breathing shallow. "Did we win?" he whispered. "Yes," Ilara said, tears falling onto his face. "You helped me take back my world." "Worth it," Mark said, his voice fading. "Always wanted to see something amazing." His eyes closed. 3 days later, Mark awoke in a chamber unlike any he had seen before. The walls pulsed with living light, and his body floated in a suspension field of energy. The pain was gone. Ilara sat beside him, now wearing the full regalia of the Luminar ruler. "Welcome back," she said softly. "I thought I was dead," Mark said, surprised at how strong his voice sounded. "You were, briefly," she replied. "Our medical science is advanced beyond your understanding, but bringing you back took everything we had. Over the following weeks, as Mark recovered, he watched Ilara restore order to her world. News arrived that Earth had declared him a deserter, prohibiting his return on pain of imprisonment. "You have lost your home because of me," Ilara said when she heard the news. Mark smiled. "I found a better one." On the day of his full recovery, Ilara took him to the most sacred chamber in the palace, the Hall of Continuance. Inside stood crystalline structures that hummed with power. "This is our greatest secret," Ilara explained. "What you see before you is the culmination of 10,000 years of luminar science, the preservation of consciousness beyond physical death." Mark stared in wonder. "You mean immortality?" "Not of the body, but of the mind," she clarified. "When a luminar's body fails, their consciousness transfers here, later to be reborn in a new form. This is how our greatest leaders guide us across generations." She touched his hand. "No outsider has ever been shown this place, much less offered its gift. But you have earned it. This is my gift to you, a place among the eternal luminar consciousness. When your human body eventually fails, you will not end." Mark looked at the crystal structures, understanding the magnitude of what she offered, not just extended life, but a bridge between their species that would last forever. "There's just one condition," Ilara said with a smile. "You must help us understand humans better. Your unpredictability saved my world. Perhaps it can help us build a better future together." Mark took her hand and nodded. "It would be my honor." Outside the chamber windows, the twin suns of the luminar system set in brilliant harmony, beginning a new era for both their worlds.